Okay, so we're going to call this meeting to order. This is the Wednesday, March 16th, 2019 site
6th.
and architecture. What?
Aren't we the 6th, not 16th?
Oh, it's 6, right. I'm sorry. I read it wrong. Yes, March 6th, 2019.
Racing ahead.
Site and Architectural Commission meeting.
Tomorrow's St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
I'm not ready.
Exactly.
Jeannie, do you want to do roll call?
Sure. Commissioner White,
Here.
Commissioner Harrington,
Here.
Commissioner Lesniak,
Here.
Commissioner Kroc,
Here.
Chairperson Wade.
Here.
Just to note, all commissioners are present.
Thank you very much. Move on to, just a reminder for everyone to turn off their cell phones if they have them not turned off.
Thank you.
Orders of the day?
Just a reminder that item number 3 on the agenda, 18081, the architectural design of a proposed subdivision has been deferred to April 3rd. And staff did get notices of deferral out to all those who were originally notified, as well as we posted it. So they, hopefully you won't see anybody here because we did notice people of the deferral by mail.
Why did
and then
you get, can
posted
we
it.
ask why it got deferred?
Staff discretion.
Well, at least the story poles have fallen down.
Yeah,
Didn't tell anything about
I
those.
think as, again, per our reading of our code, it's not technically required that these proposed house designs go before the Site and Architectural Commission. Just as the hacienda, that's a subdivision, and that Site and Architectural Control in the subdivision regulations is at the city council level. So technically it's not remanded to you for recommendation, whatever. Those are situations where when you would otherwise see the site development permit, if it's coupled with another application that is acted on by the council, those site development permits go before you for recommendation onto the council to be heard by both. However, the applicant has voluntarily agreed to bring them before you. And because that was really less than 2 weeks before, he didn't have sufficient time to do everything he needed to do. So I decided that, and he agreed that the April 3rd would be better. So hopefully that means it will go. Sorry. At the end of April, there's a meeting, city council meeting. So.
Okay, so, very good. Moving on to the next section of the meeting, public comment. It's an opportunity for anybody to speak on anything not on the agenda, just kind of an open forum. You have about, 3 minutes, and you can just state your name and address and say whatever you like. Anybody want to take me up on that? Nope. Okay. Let's go ahead and move on to approval of
Minutes.
the minutes. Pardon?
Did we go through the minutes?
That's
Okay.
next. Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. All right, yeah. So approval of the meeting minutes from the last meeting, February 6th. Assuming we've all had a chance to look at them, and any changes, or would anybody like to make a motion that we approve them as is?
I move that we approve them as written.
I second the motion.
Very good. All in favor of approving the minutes as is?
Aye.
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 Okay, so let's move on to the public hearing section. Are we going to do these in order, or are we going to swap the order? Or I thought I heard something about that.
I was going to just do them in order.
Okay,
It's not
very
gonna
good.
be that long.
Okay, I'll let you kick it off.
Okay, so first item is 18165 Constitution Avenue. Again, this is a site development permit to demolish an existing single-story home and construct a new home with an attached garage as well as a detached garage. There is an accessory dwelling unit proposed, but as you're aware, that is really not part of the discretionary approval. There are a number of trees to be removed. I think you all got the arborist report also. A lot of them are fruit trees. A lot of the trees remaining around the perimeter and whatnot are some of the oak trees, and there are some proposal to relocate at least one, if not a couple, olive trees. And additionally, as part of this, I believe there's a fence, and I'll let them talk to this. I'm not sure what the height of the fence. I think it's might be above 4 feet in one or two places within the front setback, but I'll let them clarify that. The design of the house is kind of a contemporary, modern design. If you all obviously have been out there, there's kind of a mix out on Constitution now. The home that is being demolished, from my research, doesn't trigger the 60-year. It just slips right underneath that threshold for having to have done a historic report. So there's no issue there. I think as far as what they're proposing to do, this one is before you as a recommendation because it is coupled with a grading use permit. Although they do have to get a grading use permit, a lot of what they're moving is really more associated with the backyard area and hardscape and landscape area to the rear of the house. Nonetheless, it still met the trigger for having to get a grading use permit. So what you are looking at and what you discuss will be formulated in a recommendation to council because they'll be the one that acts on both of those applications. Like I said, it meets all of the zoning regulations as far as structural and impervious coverage. It is set back on the lot, similar area to where the original house is. It's a little bit forward. Obviously, the original house is much smaller in square footage, but again, there's a pretty large setback from the street, and I like it. I thought it was well designed, single story. So again, it's really taking advantage of the location and the large lot, and creating an environment that I think is reflective of the city's current kind of design and development standards. With that, I'm available for questions.
Anybody? No. Questions? Okay. Would the owner or owner's representative like to speak on this?
Good evening. I'm Gary Colsett, the architect and representative of Patrick and Vanessa Mokler. Hopefully everybody made it out to the property and walked it. So just to reiterate, this property is essentially has a very gentle slope up. Once you get up off the street, it has a very gentle slope back to where the home will be, and then it goes up fairly steeply in the back. There also is a slight, well, not a slight. There's a pretty steep area that's on to the right side, and so, but mostly it's a flat lot, and we're at 11% slope or something like that. So we had a little bit of slope reduction off of the acreage. But the approach of for this home was, number one, architecturally, to do something a little bit more modern and clean, but still pay a little bit of homage to the neighborhood. So we have what we're calling a modern transition style. All the terms are blending these days, but it has more of it's got hip roofs and things to talk to and relate to the other homes in the neighborhood, but it has a more modern sense to it, especially in the rear of it. And that's where the focus of this home really is in the backyard, where all the living spaces. The Moklers tend to live outdoors a lot, and that's their plan for this. That was the goal from day one, to design this for the backyard. That being said, we have a very generous front setback still because we wanted a motor court and guest parking up off the street. And we are asking for quite a bit of grading as far as over the 1,000 cubic yards. That is kind of like that initial threshold. The majority of it, as Jeannie said, 1,775 cubic yards is for creating the pool area and terracing up the hill. And so that we don't have a lot of opportunities for fill. We were hesitant to show any more fill than we did because then our overall numbers would go even higher, and so that always looks frightening. However, we have some contingency plans. We're working with Jim Barth, who happens to be an adjacent neighbor. He's offered to accept as much dirt as we can give him. So obviously, if we give him more than 50 cubic yards, he's going to need a grading permit on his own. And so we're working with him to see if we can do a coordinated effort to get a grading permit for him. And then we would actually take our material and just drive it. We'd take the fencing down and we'd drive it to the neighbor without even going on city streets. So it's really beneficial for all parties involved. So hopefully that will work out, and we'll be dealing more with council on that, I would assume. I did want to mention that we actually reduced the overall amount of grading because we were going into this for so long in the process of keeping the driveway on the right where it was. And sometimes that happens when you look at something that's already there and you kind of pollute it a little bit and you just assume that's the right place for a driveway because it's already there, it's already graded. So we were working with that for very long, and it just kind of dawned on all of us that it wasn't, we were really pushing it, we were really forcing it. And so what we did, we just simply flip-flopped everything. So we have the entrance on the left now, the driveway entrance on the left. We're going to abandon the driveway on the right. Everything fits so much better on grade. The detached garage is not a bunch of fill, and the driveway that we needed, the backup spacing for these garages was not needed to be on fill. And so that really was really kind of, once we all figured that out, it was great. We're working with a great landscape architect. I think you've got a good landscape plan in front of you to analyze. And we have civil engineering because normally we wouldn't do it at this stage, but since we're going to council, we had a full engineering package for you. So if you have any questions on that, I could do my best to answer. But I just want to also mention that the outbuildings, the accessory structures that we have, they have greater than normal setbacks or required setbacks as well. They all both have about 11 feet from the sides. And we created this courtyard in the rear, the big entertaining space. But the four-car garage, we did it a double tandem style to reduce the impact not only of the frontage, but it's only have two-car garage facing the street instead of four-car garage facing the street. So that's another thing we've done to kind of minimize this whole effect on the street. That said, it's got a 71-foot front setback, and I think it's going to blend in really well with the neighborhood. And speaking of neighbors, Patrick has spoken with as many neighbors as he could actually reach out to, and they all are in favor of it. I think, don't we have one letter that
From Tom Connolly.
From Tom Collins, yeah, right, okay. So, not sure what else I can add to that. I'm happy to answer any questions. I did want to mention about the trees. The majority of trees are fruit trees, olive trees, some pepper trees. A lot of them are in really bad shape. The two large elm trees are in really kind of poor shape as well. That's all reflected in the arborist report. We're only removing a few oak trees. The majority of them are luckily, they're on the perimeter, and we can leave them alone. And so that's great evergreen screening because they're all live oaks. And then we have quite a comprehensive replanting plan to make up for all the trees that we're taking down. So we're actually committed to quite a few trees. So I'm happy to answer any questions you would have.
I don't have any questions.
I think it's a great design.
I like Jeannie's words. I like
I like it. I'm still getting over colds. It's like,
Okay. Well, thank you. I'm not going anywhere, so, and I don't know if, I'm not going to do any closing statements unless he wants to, unless you guys want to. Peanut
you.
gallery.
Thanks so much. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody want to discuss anything internally here, or?
Anybody else here to comment on that?
Yes, is there anybody else want to comment on? Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's, the design is impressive. Oh, close the public hearing. There it is.
Good job.
There we go. I knew there was something to anchor this next phase. Yeah,
No, I think they've done a great job. I
awesome.
don't think it really affects anybody else.
It
It's
truly
kind of
doesn't,
tucked
no.
in there. And I appreciate the fact that were straight up about the grading. The house next door, when they came up, they kind of weren't so upfront about the grading because it's kind of a lot that you don't really have a choice. So,
You're talking about the property to the east?
right, if you're looking at
Yeah.
the, yeah.
I have to commend you for getting the neighbor involved as you do, because that's a great double-edged benefit. Not only getting rid of the dirt, but getting the neighbor on your side.
Well, and Jim Barth was on this commission for many, many years, so, yeah,
Exactly.
they're great people.
Very good. Anybody like to make a motion to this, or?
What are we officially moving to accomplish?
a recommendation to council on approval with conditions, denial. I mean, just taking how you would normally act, but put it in the form of a recommendation to council on how you feel they should act on this application.
I move we recommend to the council to approve as presented.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Congrats.
Yay.
Good luck.
You're going to be
Okay.
awfully lonely sitting out there right now. Everybody's leaving you.
There's one victim every meeting.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to item 2 on the agenda, 16220 Greenwood Road. There are multiple structures on this property, right, Jeannie? But not all of them are really falling under our purview. Do I understand this correctly? Do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah. So this is a site development permit before you. This actually came before site and architecture was approved back in '08. 8 and 9. Yeah. And just never got around to executing it, but that's too long a time frame in between, so we're causing them to come back before you. It's consists of a proposal to, the original one consisted of a proposal to add on to the existing residence, as well as construct a 500 square foot accessory structure, as well as add on to an existing secondary dwelling unit. Under today's discretionary permit, that secondary dwelling unit addition is not really part of it. It's not part of your purview. So you're really acting on the proposed addition to the main house, which is to the rear, as well as some front additions, and that separate accessory structure. Clearly, they'll be done to be consistent with the existing finished materials of the main structure. And again, this property was affected by slope, so the overall allowed square footage is, basically it drops it down to the R18 standards, which is why, even though it's a R144 lot, because of the slope on it, the effective zoning district is R18. So. So I really didn't do much with this. If you were lucky enough to eventually find your way out there, it's really tucked back there. And, you know, it's not that, well, out of sight, out of mind. It's just that it's a pretty isolated home, and, you know, doing it in the context of what's existing there makes sense to me. Not much has changed in the past 9-10 years. So I didn't see the need to force anything different, quite honestly. And there are none of the regulations as far as allowances have changed since then. The design context is really its own little.
We're just looking at this area where the proposed new master bedroom, gym, and study would be, correct?
And one of them, you see, is an attached addition through a hallway, and that
Right.
gym and study is that accessory structure, standalone.
Yeah, so the addition is actually just the master bedroom piece, because it's connected to the main house.
Okay.
The gym and the study is totally detached and is considered an accessory structure.
Okay, okay.
But there's also another addition on the bottom of the page there at the dining room and entry. All of that is being added on to the home. And there was no netting for that.
I said no because it really wasn't.
I was gonna do it, even the people who did it last time, they left, they were all done, they came out
Yeah.
on Sunday, and they said, started looking around, what's the matter, can you do it? He said,
Yeah, because it's
well,
not.
because they said to do it, just do it.
So
All right.
There aren't any neighbors who are going to say.
no. So I was just more concerned with the addition and the you know.
Understood. Okay, very good. We can have, you know, kind of go into a hearing mode. Would you like to say something on the,
No,
regarding
I'm
the
just saying
project?
on
or-
behalf of Dr. Siegel, she
Come on
wanted
up,
to be here.
come up, talk, yeah,
So,
just state your name.
My name is Gary
Yeah.
Nalen. I'm retired from something. They just call me some guy usually, but we'll leave it at that. But I run Kellogg now, which is my family, Kellogg's Cornflakes, prior, even before that. So I live here. I moved here because we wanted to do a joint development. She thought about selling it, and then I said, this is crazy. You know, what do you owe? Nothing. She goes, I have plans. I go, well, put up the deed. I'll go put up the money, and let's just build it and live here. Okay. You know, so, no, you're supposed to think about it. But she obviously did my background and realized she's pretty safe. So with that being said, she just had major surgery to her neck. She's a thoracic surgeon, and as you know, they're bending over all the time. She just had her third cervical vertebrae fused with the second, which is extremely dangerous. So that just happened a few days ago. But on her behalf, she wanted to say thank you for re-looking at this again. She wants to do it. The only reason why she couldn't do it, she's busy. You know, she's a surgeon and she's off, and now she's in Arizona. Now I need to go there and go get rid of that house, and then she can come back here, and I still got to go work on Carmel. So we got a lot going on, so hopefully Philizetti or DiMattei aren't that too busy, and they can go work here. But other than that, she's a sweetheart, and she wanted me to tell you guys thank you very much for really doing this. This is really important to her. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll close the public hearing on this property. I had a question. So there are some trees to be removed, some relatively significant oak trees. One behind the house is, I can see why. I mean, that's right up against
Yeah.
an old retaining wall, which looks pretty old. And that could be, that could jeopardize the existing home. I think there's one out front, kind of where the cars park.
Yeah.
And then I know there's another one back behind that existing building that's being added on to.
And the cottage.
Yeah,
There's-
all looked, like they would probably fall over in a big storm. So I didn't know, but I didn't see anything noting that or indicating
Yeah,
the
I
trees.
couldn't find the fourth one. I literally, I didn't know why she said four.
Yeah, it says 4, but,
Find the fourth one.
yeah,
And I don't really want to move the other one on the master bedroom, so you would be looking up at Withing, essentially. I think we could save that. I had the guy that works with your city a lot, come out and look at it and give us a bid to do the whole street, because we
Yeah.
built a brand new street, eighth of a mile,
Yeah.
whatever it is. And he said he could save that one tree, and I kind of want to keep that one, and he's just going to trim that one. But the one next to that, the retaining wall, we don't want to get rid of the retaining wall. It's extremely
Yeah.
well built.
Okay, so my only concern is to approve it with 4 trees being removed, not knowing which 4 trees are being removed.
Yeah.
I know 3 for sure have to go, or I think I know the 3 that would go. How do we approach
Can we condition the 4th tree to Jeannie's discretion?
discretion?
Yeah.
Okay, that would be a good way to
Yeah.
handle it. Okay. All right.
How is that, so I can tell Sharon?
So what we're thinking of doing is approving it with 3 trees being removed, with the 4th tree requiring
Thank you.
just a one-on-one approval with Jeannie.
Thank you.
It doesn't have to come back before the commission.
Appreciate it.
So
Yeah.
you have to be digging around out there for which tree
You
it is.
got to find out which tree it is. So you can't just cut down any 4th
No,
random tree.
they're beautiful.
Not without Jeannie's permission.
All right. Does anybody else have anything to discuss or comments on
Yeah,
this?
it's got its own neighborhood, so compatibility with neighborhoods
Compatible,
totally
yeah,
works.
we don't have to worry about
Well,
that.
yeah, and most of the work is so back
Yeah,
in there
you-
into the
And
hill. It's just,
it took a while to even see the netting, like.
Yeah.
it's-
Yeah, we don't have to
sure.
worry about staging areas. No neighbors are gonna care.
yeah.
I have a question about, Steve, you brought up this circle that I'm not quite sure what
So
it's
I
supposed
can,
to.
so basically, here's that little cottage that's tucked in here. So there's a relatively significant addition being added onto the back of that. But it's an accessory structure and it doesn't really,
Wait, I thought the cottage was staying the same size. Is the
it's
cottage
not,
staying the same?
no.
No,
It's being
I'll explain. I actually read the architect's notes. So what they're gonna do is they're actually gonna take that building down and rebuild it identical,
Right.
brand
That's,
new, but with a proper foundation. And then they're adding on 30 feet.
to the back.
That's it.
that's
So,
what, that's the
That's what I was
missing
talking
piece.
about when I was
That's the
looking out
missing
there, yeah,
piece,
yeah.
okay.
yeah.
But under today's regulations, that isn't up for discretionary review. It's an accessory dwelling unit.
Yeah, and they just get to
Yeah,
do
so
whatever they
they,
want.
and they don't even have to do what's on this plan. So accessory dwelling units now
They
no
don't have to
longer, we can no longer require a discretionary permit. So although it's on here, I don't make people take them off the plans, but whatever your approval is on
On
all
just
of those
the,
items that are under your purview, this one not being one of those.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
So
just-
they can
Well,
come
then
in and
I
have
won't
a
talk about
completely
it
different
anymore.
plan.
don't even need to go there.
Right,
Yeah.
right, okay. So I think we're all clear. So again, we're just looking at the extension of the side of the house there.
Right.
And one of the new structures that's going behind the house, the one that's attached with a stairwell to the main dwelling.
And the standalone.
And the
accessory
standalone.
Oh, and the
structure.
standalone, oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Them
any,
in the
any,
study.
any building greater than 120 square feet.
Oh, it's greater than
requires-
120, so then, okay, got it, all right. Yeah, so, like we said, I mean, it's so tucked back in there, and it's, I think would be generally an improvement to the.
I have a
what's there now.
I have one curiosity. Is there enough access coming into the property for heavy-duty equipment to get back there and without going on the neighbor's property?
Yeah, she put in her own road.
Okay.
So
It's a nice road.
from Greenwood Lane, well, hers, she spent almost $500,000.
Okay.
It's just like the city specs. It literally has a paved road with curbs and 3-foot culverts that lead out of the property. So she's got the creeks coming beyond both sides of the property. It all goes underneath the road. Like, I did an amazing job. I just was
So,
a good guy.
any damage to the road during
It's ours.
construction is gonna be
Their
her
road.
own
Their
road.
road, so
Yeah.
Our road.
Yeah.
that- that answers my question.
All right. All that being said, anybody like to make a motion to approve this? Or maybe I'll just make the motion to approve it. Yeah, okay, I make a motion that we approve this with the removal of the 3 trees that we are aware of. The one being in the front of the house, the one being immediately behind the house against the retaining wall, and the one being over by the existing cottage that's going to be reconstructed and added onto. We understand that there might be a 4th tree to be removed. That will let that review happen at staff level with Jeannie.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. 5-0.
Okay, we're good to
Thank you
go.
very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Jack.
Thank you.
Hope she heals up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna fly out.
Okay, this meeting is hereby adjourned.
Jeannie has one
Oh,
comment.
whoa,
Whoa,
no.
whoa, whoa.
Any new business?
Hey, that's okay.
Hey there, Heather.
I just wanted to let you all know that staff is going to bring to you at your next meeting a proposal to amend the zoning ordinance, inclusive of some setback for the R18 as directed by council last May, as well as over the course of the 2.5 years that I've been here, some areas where I think really need some clarification, and in the area of the slope density stuff and side corner setback
Right.
fence height. So, and it's a lot of stuff, so maybe one of the things makes sense to bring before you, but since it's a whole package, we're going to bring it
This
all
is
to
next
you.
month?
April.
3rd?
Mm-hmm.
Boy, that's going to be a good.
It's gonna be a fun meeting.
Does that affect this one?
No.
does not.
Let's approve the whole thing so we can go to work. Mark, get out there.
Yeah, get out of here before they
Oh,
hold
they
it
change,
out.
we change our
Thank you
mind.
very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen. God bless
Okay.
you.
Thank
So
you.
we're making recommendations to
That'll be in our
council
packet.
in response to the, okay.
Yeah. I'll